Welcome to the AI Marketing Revolution panel. I'm very happy to see all of you here today. My name is Stefan Sambol. I'm a co-founder colleague of Anja and very happy to host this panel here. And before we start, let me introduce the panelists. You heard Anja. Anja is over 10 years in the digital industries. She is an inspiring leader and helping business leaders to really transform their business models into the future. And besides this, she was elected. I'm not supposed to say this. No, but a good thing. She was elected to among the technology leaders, female leaders in Germany. So all the best for the final vote. We hope you will make it. And then we have Julia. You came from Amsterdam. So welcome to Munich. I heard you had a nice evening yesterday. So that's very good.
It's always lovely to be here.
So she's a marketing director for HubSpot, and you are instrumental when it comes to AI solutions, thought leadership, advising companies, and helping to master the change from traditional marketing organizations to very innovative digital leaders. So welcome also.
Thank you.
And then we have Till joining our panel from Dublin. And also thank you very much for making the way here to us. And you are helping many large companies to become thought leaders on LinkedIn. Who knows how many companies are on LinkedIn today globally? Guess.
50 million.
It's 68 million. It's 68 million companies. We have over 10 million leadership people on LinkedIn, which makes it so attractive for businesses to reach out to the right people in the right industry at the right moment with the right message. At the same time, 30% of the people who are on LinkedIn are between 25 and 35 years old. So it's also a great recruiting platform. So we were very interested and curious to hear how companies can do this. And then you heard Christoph, who came from Austria, so the shortest way. And Christoph is very interesting because at Tyrolead, which is a steel giant from Austria, he initiated a global digital transformation innovation program 4 years ago. And we talked a lot about this. We are very happy to be part of this program. And we will hear about what are the challenges, the opportunities, and how he is using AI in making his organization more efficient. So before we start, just a question here to the audience. Who's using AI tools to make his go-to-market or his marketing strategies more efficient? All right, that looks good. Who believes that AI tools can help you to reduce your costs in 2025? So you're right here. Welcome to the event. So that's very good because that is the topic. First of all, we like to speak about adoption of AI. And Julia, I would like to address this question to you as you are in touch with many organizations. We see that many marketeers are very optimistic when it comes to the outlook of 2025. What are your top 3 recommendations to business leaders and marketeers?
Wow, that's such a difficult question to it's impossible to almost answer this with 3 recommendations. So I'll try to make it short. But let's start maybe by giving a little bit of context, right? If we look at a recent survey that we conducted, we see that it's a number 1 priority for companies to adopt AI within their organizations, specifically for marketing teams. That's something that we see. It's a fact. It's something that we see across Europe. If we don't look at the numbers, 93% of companies in Europe are currently actively seeking for AI solutions or have already implemented AI solutions. So that's massive. We see that it's important. Also in Germany, interestingly enough, we see that 78% of marketing leaders actually are thinking about implementing AI. They are looking at it with a very positive lens. Yet if we look at the adoption, it is not where it needs to be. If we look at, for example, comparing it to the Benelux, using Benelux not because I'm from there, but specifically because it's been very high. And if you compare that to Germany, Germany is very behind. And I'm not surprised by seeing the show of hands in this room because there's a lot of work to be done, right? And you start to wonder, what is that about? Where does this come from? And how can you solve that? And I normally try to bucketize it into 3 different solutions. First and foremost, you need to think about how to educate and train your teams on AI. It is not a secret that many teams and individuals are afraid of using AI. They are afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid because it may be too complex. They may not know where to start. They may have questions about data security or data privacy, right? So teams and individuals are generally hesitant to start using. And you definitely also see the cultural changes or the differences between countries. So if you take that away and you start to actually train and educate your team on it, you will take away a bit of that uncertainty. And you really see that the adoption will slowly start to increase. So that's one. Second to that, and what is the one that I think is most important, is it is really hard to select the right AI tool, right? You really need to try and find a solution that integrates seamlessly with the solutions that your team is currently already using. If you think about the average marketer, and I'm a bit biased because I work in marketing, but the average marketer uses a lot of different solutions, right? So adding additional solutions to that can make their work even more complex. And it makes them wonder, how will that actually increase my effectiveness? So they stay away from it. So think very carefully if you choose your AI solutions. And then thirdly, which is one that's very near to me, is share the learnings and share the wins. You've got the early adapters, the ones that some of us may follow on LinkedIn or elsewhere, to really set the example and share the latest news and the latest articles and the latest launches, like Claude did this week, right? On what is happening with AI. And then you have the laggards, which is not a word that I like, but the people that are a bit more hesitant and that don't follow everything. What we tend to see is that if you get the early adopters to really share the messages, the laggards won't understand it. So find someone within your organization that can actually translate that message. What does it mean when we're using AI? What is the message and what is the actual result that they achieve? Make it understandable and make it digestible. So those three things, and I know it's a little bit of a long answer, apologies, but those three things I would definitely try to hone in on if you haven't started yet.
Thank you very much. And also it's an open discussion for the other panelists. Till, what do you think?
On this specific...
Yeah.
I mean, so it's obviously, so by the way, what I found really interesting is the sort of show of hands and the people saying and seeing here, obviously, that you think revenue will drive AI. So a huge roadblock, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my answer as well, is that apparently to a study we did, that a lot of people think AI is really expensive. And so our philosophy and the way we work with AI at LinkedIn and the way how we approach it is that we see AI as a tool and as a assistant to us. So we think AI should be human first, and we should always treat AI as a tool. And we and that was described very, very nicely. We should develop together with this AI, right? So maybe you have one champion in the company that becomes an AI advocate, works his way up, so to say, or works together with the team, becomes better and better, and that sort of lifts up the whole company, right? So, because I think a big fear that there is that, so AI is this one massive thing that's arriving, this one, let's say, sticking with movies, for example, this one Terminator that arrives in the room that's very big, very strong, very hard to manage. But that's actually untrue. AI is a small thing that only develops if you develop together with it. So, yeah. Hope that.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's very visual representation of AI.
Yeah. Let's follow up on this topic, Till, because a lot of people face challenges when it comes to implementation, right? This very quickly successful proof of concepts, no?
Yeah.
This trial and error. What do you see usually hinders organizations in implementing AI?
Yeah. So, I mean, quite a few reasons I mentioned, and actually very interesting. You mentioned Benelux in Germany, because I've lived in the Netherlands for almost 10 years, worked there for a while, and the Netherlands is usually very, very advanced when it comes to anything digital. They implement things really quick, whereas we in the DACH region or in Germany tend to be a bit on the slower end. And we did a research together with HubSpot, and there's like 3-4 main points that stood out. So number one, I've already mentioned. So there is assumption that AI is really expensive to implement, which is basically blocking the adoption of it. So apparently 43% of these people in the study said it's too expensive to implement. So that's one blocker. And then, of course, I mean, we are in Germany, we love our rules and regulations, but we also in the same time scared of it. So we hear a lot from our clients, we're concerned, is it GDPR compliant? Then the whole topic of DMA is always a big topic. So there's big fear and concerns that, AI could lead to fines, to punishment, etc., etc. So there's sort of punishment and fear aspect is definitely a big part of it. And the third part is, and this was sort of touched on as well, is that we're lacking skilled workers, right? But, and as a matter of fact, AI is so new, and I said it's developing. So, we are developing with the tool. And, my big and massive recommendation is that because there's actually a lot of enthusiasm in the workforce. So we did a study with a company, and basically, out of all people using AI in marketing, 73% bring in their own AI. So what this means is they're using their own logins for ChatGPT or for, any other AI tool. And so basically there's a lot of enthusiasm in the market. So the recommendation here is to start slow. So you don't need this massive AI tool. You don't need a generative AI tool that does the banners for you. You need, maybe start with Copilot, ensuring your Microsoft Office suite has Copilot enabled. Everyone can use it. And, I lead a team of roughly 10 people, and I'm a big believer in leading by example. So if you're on a leadership function, be, that leader that leads by examples and uses Copilot for translating, uses Copilot for, the smaller things like, updating your PowerPoint presentation, for example. And this way you grow together with the AI and you come more and more, this whole tool and working together, you will become more brave at the end of the day, and your whole company will become more brave, and you will advance and develop together with the tool. And then at some point you're like, hey, we have Copilot handled. We're leveraging Copilot. Let's get a generative AI tool, or let's try a bidding algorithm in performance marketing. So developing together bit by bit with a tool. This is my one recommendation. And no one expects from you to, have a full AI suite of tools. It can start slow and bit by bit, like the Kaizen principle, 1% better at a time.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Let's move from the service providers to the people who work with the tools, to the users. And we know that AI-driven teams are more likely to achieve high ROIs. So, Christoph, maybe you can speak a bit how you guys implemented this in the marketing teams. What are typical use cases for you?
Yeah. First of all, I'm probably not the biggest AI expert on the planet. I rather come from this whole digital transformation side. And for me, this is one aspect that I want to bring up because for me, the fun is over since my CEO and my CFO have recognized that something like AI exists. Before that, we are using AI tools on multiple different ways. I think I registered ChatGPT 3 days after it came out. We had our own Midjourney server. We used Writesonic, Content at Scale, and different tools really since a long time. You mentioned the whole security topic. I think we will talk about that anyway. I just can say people in the organization, especially those that are a bit coming from the security perspective, hate me because it's very difficult and very easy at the same time. Integrating AI tools is super cheap and super fast. You register with your Facebook account or whatever. It costs $15 a month and you're good to go. But at the same time, you completely mess up every process within a large organization. We are, maybe to set the stage a little bit, we are an abrasive manufacturer, super old-fashioned, active in 40 markets, doing abrasives. So we grind stuff. It's an industrial company with a strong field sales focus. And what I see, what the biggest challenge with AI is that people have the wrong expectations, especially on the C-level recently. We had a discussion that we now want to automate our R&D department with AI to develop products on a click. And what I see is AI is super cool for lazy people. I love it because it's a tool that helps you be more efficient and be faster and gain insights. That's fantastic. But AI is not the magic black box. So if you think that now we have a fancy AI tool that does some data prediction or customer behavior prediction or whatever, if the data structure and the process structure is not there, it won't work. And so what I see the process development and the IT infrastructure, and we also use HubSpot. We also are very active on LinkedIn. HubSpot is a fantastic tool, but we are sometimes in existing organization in an environment that is not like a greenfield. So we have an existing infrastructure. We don't use HubSpot as our core CRM system because we are focused around the SAP and Microsoft ecosystem, and our CRM is C4C. And if I would now come and say, hey, let's use HubSpot as a new CRM system, people would probably kill me in real time. So what we did is we said, let's take the existing and let's build something that supports the existing. And we use HubSpot mainly for this whole lead to sales pipelines for digital channels, where HubSpot is amazing compared to C4C. And at some point in the value chain of new leads, we hand it over into our existing infrastructure. And there you have a lot of AI use cases. For example, what we do is we build a scoring tool that helps us if leads come in. I don't know who said that before. It's not difficult to generate leads. We do a lot of lead gen account-based marketing on LinkedIn. So it's not so difficult to scale this up. But if you're in an organization, the real pain point is not generating leads. The real pain point is bringing sales to a point where they start working with leads. And if you send 1,000 leads over and every lead gets declined, it's a bit frustrating and it's like a fictional work you do. So what we did is we integrated, just an example for AI, a score pipeline where we track everything that's coming in, every lead. We track the engagements, where is the lead coming from, what kind of campaign he's coming from, what is the company behind. So we try to get insights, and derived from that, we do a lead scoring, because I think this month we generated, 600 or something like this leads. And if you have an inside sales team, which is also in my department, and they do the qualification process, they need to decide where to act and how fast to act. And this for me is a typical use case along the process where you say, okay, I have a process. Mm-hmm. It's up and running. It's existing. And people spend time for certain tasks, desk research, qualification, lead to sales steering. And you can take single points along this journey and use AI to be a bit more lazy and solve single problems with efficient IT solutions. That's, I think, my main driver there.
Thank you very much. I let Julia convince you later on the CRM capabilities against C4C. No, but over to you, Julia.
Yes.
Maybe some other use cases that you see across companies that help with AI and also Breeze and all the HubSpot functionalities that you offer to become more efficient, to achieve higher ROIs.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think, for companies that are not yet using AI and have not yet implemented it, it's one of the first steps, right? You start with acceleration, and that's what we tend to see with a lot of companies using HubSpot, but also organizations that I speak to that are using AI that is not HubSpot related, right? The first step is acceleration. How can you use it to take out the repetitive tasks? I'm looking back always as an example, the way I did marketing years ago. Creating a campaign, it would require you to bring a team together. It would require you to brainstorm on a topic for a day. It would then take you another week to create a landing page, 2 more weeks to create the blogs, and try to curate it, etc. And I think that is the one thing that AI instantly took away for marketers, right? It's really freeing up time to spend on what you can do best, which is creating content that's better, right? Adding that personalized touch. So because AI can do all the rest, they can search the topics, they can do that way better than we as marketers can actually do. So that's one. What we tend to see at HubSpot is people use that, right? So they use it to create content, they use it to personalize content, they use it to distribute content. Anja already touched upon it earlier on as well. We have, again, I'm biased, but prior to joining HubSpot, I've been a customer for many years, right? I'm a big fan of the product. It's easy, it's fast, it's unified. when we look at the solutions that we've added to it with our AI capabilities, it just makes the jobs a lot easier, right? We can instantly create content. We can instantly personalize it and distribute it using Content Remix. What you shared or what was shared, you upload a blog, which is just mind-blowing if I go back 7 years, 10 years in time. You upload a blog and it spits out into social media posts, like podcast copy, into all of the different types of content that you want to see. And that saves so much time. Now, are you the marketer that's going to use that time to drink more coffee with your colleagues? Or are you going to use that to actually spend more time, learning and upskilling about AI? That's up to you. And I think when we talk about upskilling and missing the skilled people, those are the ones that will ultimately win. And I'm far from an AI expert, but I do like to keep up to date. I want to really know what's going on because that's ultimately how I'm going to thrive and how I make my team also ultimately thrive as well, and our customers.
Thank you very much for sharing these insights. And now, of course, Till, we love to hear from LinkedIn how you guys see your clients to become faster, grow faster with the AI tools you're offering.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so let me start with actually with the stats. So we did a research. I've mentioned that one already with the research we did with HubSpot. And only 40% of marketeers actually in that research said that their sales and marketing teams are aligned, which is a shockingly low number. That said, I've been in digital marketing for 14 years. And to this day, and I won't mention any names, but I've been in a client call where the client reduced budget. And we were a little bit shocked. We're like, it was going really well. Why would you reduce budget? And the answer was that there were so many leads in the pipeline that the sales team couldn't respond to these leads. And we are just sitting there shocked because this is such a big missed opportunity. And the reason why that happened is because basically marketing didn't tell sales they're running a lead gen campaign, right? So they had a separate CRM. We mentioned HubSpot. You have all in one place. So if, for example, they would work with one CRM, they could probably anticipate what's happening. Of course, they should have probably talked to each other, but this alignment is crucial. It's crucial to success. It's crucial for a future of a company, especially. And, I see this every day. Marketing budgets are getting tighter and tighter because we have macroeconomic headwinds. Look at the economic situation in Germany. And so this is also where AI comes into play and this alignment of marketing and sales. Because look, AI is only as good as the data it has. And the more data it has, the better it will perform. We have actually a very interesting statistic, or two interesting statistics, that basically, if you have a well-aligned marketing campaign that is well-aligned with AI, the ROI of the average campaign will be 4 times higher, and you generate 10 times more leads. So how do you do that? As I mentioned before, the more data you feed the so-called or machine or the AI, the better it will perform. So I'm working in performance marketing. All of us, we have AI-driven algorithms. In LinkedIn, it's called Accelerate. Google has a similar thing. Meta has a similar thing. So, but obviously you need to feed that algorithm. And there is even a threshold that you need to meet of data for these AI campaigns to even start and kick off. So my general ask to everyone, to every marketeer is, align with your sales department, leverage that data and feed the tool with data and have it develop and really, really generate this revenue, this ROI, this amount of leads. Because there's also one very interesting statement, and you sort of touched on it. I recently was in America at a LinkedIn conference, and we have a COO who is very close to the Microsoft CEO, so he's very involved with AI related topics. And he said, of course you don't have to use AI, but there's going to be a point, and it's going to be very, very soon, that if you don't use AI as an employee, but also as a company, you're going to fall behind big time, because all the other companies, they're developing further and further. Their ceiling is going to grow higher and higher, right? So, and if you don't start now, there is competition, there's other companies, other people that will leverage this technology, and they're going to have a huge advantage. So really, really ensure, leverage data, feed the AI tool, and just get going, basically.
Thank you very much. 2 topics you mentioned before is budget constraints and also the talent gap in organizations. Yeah. So, Christoph, maybe to your direction, how do you overcome these challenges in your company?
We don't.
Honest answer.
Of course. Budget is always a problem. I think I would be lying if I would say something else, especially we are an Austrian company. The situation is very similar to Germany. The industrial environment is very challenging on a global basis. So I would be lying if I'd say we invest fun money into cool things. No, it's very tight. You're mentioning talents. That's my biggest challenge, actually. We are in Austria, Tyrol, not far from here, and getting digital talents is a nightmare, really, so to say. But you were mentioning probably my most difficult or challenging point. I think the main pain point in Mittelstandsunternehmen is that, especially in the B2B environment, that you rarely have, you have two problems. One is you have rarely a very good aligned marketing and sales team. The typical setup is like sales is doing the business and the marketing guys are running funny campaigns and doing catalogs or whatever, making landing pages. That's one thing I want to go a bit deeper. And the other thing is you have this legacy situation. So I so much love systems like HubSpot. And if I would now found a company tomorrow, this would probably be my go-to solution. If I have somebody sitting here from Microsoft, he will also be super excited about the AI capabilities of Microsoft, and the same goes for SAP or any other cool. There are many cool softwares out there on the market. The problem that you have in the typical Mittelstand-Unternehmen is that you have a tech stack in place. And if you have implemented CRM, it took us 5 years to convince the last person to at least open this funny system, not really mentioning that everybody is using it in a perfect way. So you cannot change something like this overnight, maybe on a slide, but in reality, it will take years for people to adopt. And mentioning sales and marketing in an alignment, I think, and that's why we so much focus on processes, on tech stack, and in a second step, use AI to increase the efficiency, is sales will only start listening to you at one point. And you can generate leads until you're green and blue, and you can scale it up and have the best impressions or whatever. Sales will start to recognize you when you steer leads to them that create value, that are really, really good. And for that, that's what we have established. I'm responsible really for the end-to-end. I don't hand over MQLs or SQLs. We attract leads in multiple campaigns, very specific. That's a disadvantage we have. We have very, very narrow segments, that we serve. And then we have this team that qualifies those leads really with a value, an estimated deal value, to check, is this a good lead? And there we use AI to support this process. And then we hand it over to our field sales. And then we need to track it, because the typical sales guy out there on the planet doesn't like it. He does not want to do new business. And if you start to convince sales that what you are actually generating, HubSpot, fancy, but actually it doesn't matter what tool you use. If you provide cool leads and people make business with what you generate, then they start to listen to the marketing team. And that's, for me, the game changer was when we started to generate insights, data insights. So typically sales is the one in control because they know their customers. Yeah, for sure. But once you start leveraging the potential that you get when you have campaigns, you have performance, you have deals, you see what's happening, not just for the 3 customers my sales rep is telling me about, but for all of them in Germany and in the US and in India, you suddenly are able to really steer on a marketing perspective. And that's where the game starts to turn a little bit. Mm-hmm.
And if I may add to this, sorry, and I'm not supposed to ask questions, I know, but I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
Because you have going through all this kind of change as well with your sales team, right? After implementing HubSpot, you're in the middle of it. Yeah, I know. And do you evaluate the aspect of culture? So how did you handle this? Was there something specific that you did to make sure they are open, they accept?
Well, I'm coming from the communication side originally, so change management, stakeholder management, talking to people is something I always liked. And I think change projects always work in a very similar way. It's not difficult to install HubSpot as a platform. It's one click and it's there, or 2 clicks and it's there. It's much more difficult to convince the people. And I have this picture in my mind where I say, okay, you need some multipliers around you. You need people that are convinced that this is cool, and then they multiply it and it multiplies. And this takes time. That's the good side. The negative side is at some point you need to work with rewards and punishments. I'm sorry to say so. We have a sales force. Our average age is probably 50. They are used to drive around in their Audis with their catalogs on the back, visiting their customers. And now come the people from the headquarters and they tell, now you need to use a CRM. I guarantee you 30% of the people say, goodbye. I wait until he calls again. I'm not going to do it. So you can convince people, especially younger people. They also like this deal idea and lead idea and something new, cool. But the old guys, they don't care. And you need to win people, but you also need to set clear boundaries. And what we did at some point is we said, okay, funny that you make a deal. If it's not reported in the CRM system, it's not a deal. So it sounds very rude, but you need something like this to make sure that people start using a system, because otherwise it's just a system.
Absolutely.
And it's not over yet.
I actually have a question for both of you. So I had a conversation with Julia before this, and because we have seen some shockingly low numbers of AI adoption, we hear some stories from the German Mittelstand, and obviously, I think at the moment in Germany, I'm an outside observer because I'm in Dublin, but like we have quite a negative mindset at the moment in general. That's at least my impression. And when it comes to AI adoption, what I see sometimes or often with clients, they're saying we're not using AI, but then you ask them, okay, how have you created this creative, for example? Oh, we've used Copilot, or we've used Microsoft Design or whatever, or they're using AI-based bidding algorithms. So, excuse me, I was a bit sick. Oh, water, yeah, thank you. So my question is, don't we underestimate ourselves? Don't we use AI tools on a daily basis and we don't even realize sometimes?
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say
definitely. Yes. Just not in a structured way like you were mentioning with HubSpot. Because what I see a bit is, and I that's why I was saying before, people hate me in my organization because I registered with Facebook for a platform which is completely illegal in our company. But I still do it because I consider playing around with AI needs a certain type of playground. If every time you try to implement an AI solution, you do it in an official way, probably chances are high that the company is not there anymore once it's officially approved. So you need to be fast. I completely agree. But what I also see is you can play, but and you're super excited. I tried millions of tools and you're super excited on a test situation and making funny pictures or videos with Gen AI. I used Runway. It was super. And then there also content creation, super. And then there comes the point where you say, and now I'm going to create a white paper for real. And our problem is we're an industrial company in a very specific segment, very narrow. Generic for us has nothing to do with generic in the outside world. And you soon realize that even if you build your custom GPT and all those content generation tools, they have limitations. So you get results where I say, pooh, that's okay, but not really cool. And that's, for example, what we did together with you guys is we built our own LLM that was specifically trained really for our industry that is able to generate also SEO contents and blog posts and white paper contents. Still, they are not perfect at all, but the results are better. And what I often see is that people love the tools. They are super excited. They test them. And then they want to use it in real life. And they see there are still, this will solve definitely by itself over a couple of months. But the results are not perfect, especially when you're talking to technicians like I do. This is really a pain in the, But yeah, I agree. We use the tools, but more on a generic level, on a broad basis.
Agreed. Yeah.
Maybe let's move to one topic that was touched before, because everyone is super enthusiastic about the theoretical AI discussion. And then we come to the real world and we see that our data is not in the right quality, that we miss the technology foundation to apply AI. But you mentioned a very nice statistics, achieving higher ROIs and 10 times more leads. What can a deeper data integration with tools like HubSpot or LinkedIn help you in order to achieve your results still?
So basically, I mean, there is, very sorry about my voice. Okay, it's getting better now. Yeah, so I mean, look, so I actually read a very, very interesting number before this. So there is, revenue floating around in the billions and billions and billions. So just in the banking or IT industry, if you would leverage AI perfectly, let's say in the perfect world, we're talking a number of 300 to 600 billion annually, just for marketing and sales together. So there is a lot of untapped opportunity, around. So basically, what you need to do is, so obviously LinkedIn, and I'm talking from a LinkedIn perspective, we are one part of, we are one tool, one software in a big world of marketing. But the ideal scenario is that you have one source of truth. Let's say, for example, HubSpot, where your data aligns, where you can see all the data, where you can see how things perform, top funnel, lower funnel, etc., etc. And then make data-driven decision based on this and feed the tools. And again, I'm talking from LinkedIn's perspective. So feed LinkedIn, but I know in the real world, all of our clients use Meta, they use Google as well. So make data-driven decisions based on your own logic, but let AI help you, right? So because I hear a lot, what I hear a lot from clients is like, so there's two types of clients. We have the clients who love the old manual bit. So basically they go into a campaign, they set how much they want to pay for a campaign, for a click, for an impression, and they think they are better than the AI. So they say, we have tested AI for 10 days. My campaign performs better. In no way, shape, or form will a human being outperform AI ever, right? So, and I said it before, we see AI human-centric to be our assistant. So don't be insulted if AI outperforms you. Give it time, let it work, let it, help you make the data-driven decisions. Let it help you make the perfect creative, the perfect strategy, the perfect campaign setup, but don't be afraid and give it time. And basically, this is how you can, achieve the, hopefully, ROI of, what did we say, 4 times, and the 10 times more leads.
Yeah, very good.
Maybe just one thing to add, because I've heard it, I've observed it a little, and just one thing to add that I think we're forgetting is bad data in is bad data out, right? And I think that's the most important thing when you start working with AI. If you, to your point, if you start working with a ton of different solutions, right, and you open the playground and you put a swing and you put all the different things, but they don't communicate and it does not all land in the same place, you will never successfully be able to use AI. So I think regardless of what solution or how you try to use it when you're within your organization, you need to think about how it first integrates with your system and therefore also how it integrates between teams, right? So if you want to have a full picture of your customer, it is almost impossible to have it in different systems that don't talk to each other, right? So again, a bit biased, but when you have a platform like HubSpot where you have everything in one platform, it allows for you to really build those specific content pieces that are built on your own story, that are built on your own data. And that makes that relevancy come to life. So just to briefly add, because I think that it's a very important element to making AI work successfully and achieving the ROI.
And this is also, if I may add to this, why we are working a lot with pilots, because then you are not in front of a big challenge of sorting all the data of the whole company. Having a pilot environment and also an MVP in mind helps you to do the first exercise and homework in the area of structuring the data, learning how you should do it in general, and then implementing it step by step. And it's then not too much at once, so to say, and gives you a bit of a chance to learn with a first scenario.
Maybe to add to Anja, yeah. That is the reason actually why we implemented HubSpot. So there has been a tech setup that has been implemented by our IT, and we weren't just able to overrule our IT and said, change everything. So we came to the point where we said we need an agile solution. We need something where we can work in an environment which is much more, it's not always an IT project because these take longer. And HubSpot for us really serves a specific use case in this whole digital customer acquisition path with all the advantages when it comes to marketing automation, to pipeline management. And at the same time, we have been able to really separate two worlds because in our organization, the lead was like, it was bad. Because in the past, lead management for us was, I don't know who mentioned, Anja, you mentioned that, yeah. Lead management for us a couple of years ago was that somebody was attending a fair, taking the exhibitor list and upload it to C4C, distribute it to the sales reps and say, now I have uploaded new leads to you. There were companies they didn't even know us and nobody has talked to them. So this has not been a lead. It's like a phone book. And when we started with digital customer acquisition, we said we are also sending leads there, but we need to make sure that they are treated in a different way. That's why we have this HubSpot environment to make sure that whatever happens in the digital path does not affect our existing system. And only at the point where we can say, that's cool, we hand it over. And over time, sales has learned that if a lead is coming from the source HubSpot, it's probably cool.
So before we open up to the audience to ask some questions and then later on enjoy drinks and dinner, maybe one quick last advice to the marketeers and the business leaders who are here and we make the round. Christoph, what would you recommend to business leaders here in order to increase the AI adoption?
Have a process that where you can put an AI on. I think don't use the buzzword AI to solve a problem. Give an example. We wanted to make a data cleansing project, and somebody from our management had the fantastic idea. Let's run an AI through it, and then the problem is solved. No, it won't work like that. So have a process, have a use case, and have something that you can measure because then you can see the difference.
Julia?
There's many. So I'd probably say start identifying where you could save most time within your organization if you haven't started yet. So map out your teams, start identifying what are the things that they currently spend most of their times on. For example, if your sales team is spending 2.5 hours a day on pure admin, that might be an area where you want to look into, right? So really try to identify the areas of opportunity within your company to help you to redistribute your resources as well, especially at a time where many companies are budget constrained.
Cool. For me, actually, sort of what I said already, don't be concerned, get going, because to be very honest, things are happening so fast, so quickly, you're going to fall behind before you even notice. So don't be scared, start small, 1% at a time.
Last but not least, I would say train all levels of your team to make this knowledge available from the management to the very bottom. Have trainings. They are free of charge available on different platforms, high value training so that people get in contact with the topic of AI and they lose being afraid of using it. And then you can also develop the use cases with them.
Thank you very much. Questions from the audience? Andy.
Yeah, Till, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Something you said right at the very beginning,
that
you were surprised that companies were saying, well, we have more leads than we can handle.
Yeah.
And that was because sales and marketing are connected.
Correct.
Isn't it, though, the case that when you're using AI and when you're being more accurate and honing in on LinkedIn and you really know who your target groups are, aren't you going to end up in that problem really? And how then do you really handle it?
I think honestly, if you use AI and predictive analytics, they wouldn't have ended up in that situation, right? Because what they did, or probably didn't do, is they didn't, well, so in that case, I mean, there was a few scenarios. So they didn't communicate, number one, but also the marketing team didn't forecast the amount of leads that will come in properly, right? So a lot of companies, I know you have an annual planning or you have a quarterly planning. And normally what a lot of companies do is they say, well, we invest X amount of money and X amount of leads is going to come out of it, right? And they didn't do that properly. And AI, if used properly, helps you with, predictable analytics, does AI-based forecasting. So they could have anticipated this outcome potentially if they would have leveraged AI.
But if they did it right, they still would have. I mean, you end up having to increase your sales force if your value of your leads goes up.
But they could have hired them beforehand, right? So, yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, Robert?
Just one thought on what Julia said. This garbage in, garbage out principle, isn't this a pre-AI principle that we should maybe question as well? Isn't generative AI an example that you can actually put garbage in and you get something really beautiful?
Yeah, that's a great question. You would say so. I think it's definitely also pre-AI. Yet there's many solutions that don't perfectly integrate together, right? And if you don't have that, then AI won't solve that for you either. So I think it's definitely something you need to continue looking at as a business when making the decision on what solutions you want to work with. Of course, you'll probably be able to find a solution that connects it everywhere, but why have 10,000 of different solutions being cobbled together instead of one platform that actually communicates? But that's my take on it.
Also, one thing, AI needs to learn what's garbage and what's not, and that's only be learned from human being. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one last question.
One question about the budget. So I think there was a mention about the costs of implementing HubSpot and AI. So could you give maybe a ballpark estimation about how much it costs to deploy HubSpot, for example, say for a Mittelstand Unternehmen, say $500 million in sales, maybe 2,000 employees, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 users. So just a range of how much does it cost to implement the initial deployment of the solution and then maybe the maintenance of the solution over a year.
Yeah. So to answer that, it really varies on what you're looking for, right? The solution, as Anja shared earlier on as well, consists of a lot of different components. So it depends on what you're looking for. It so happens I am here with some of the experts when it comes to also building up a package and pricing. So I'm going to ask them to raise their hands. So during networking, they'll be able to answer them more in depth. So we have Yusuf over here and then Jens. So they'll be able to, based on a little bit more criteria, give you your ballpark figure. You're welcome.
Well, then, thank you very much for everyone participating. Thank you for coming to Munich, having this exciting panel with us. There were many insights shared. Educate, train, trial and error. The Germans are not the best in overcoming our cultural limitations and making mistakes potentially, but then overcoming those. But it's also very important what you said on creating kind of a data culture within the company, no? Identifying the testimonials, motivating people to use and try to see what works best. I think that's very important. Also, what you said is having the support also from the top management in order to use that, have budgets. But we also learned from Till that it's most of the time maybe not the biggest budgets you need to make the small steps, no? And to have good POCs and then get with these improvements in terms of data, ROI, more budget for the bigger projects. And with this, we like to close here and now go to the fun part. Of course, this was a lot of fun, but now have some drinks and enjoy the networking. Thank you for coming here. And there will be more exciting events in the rest of the year.